The Business Oddcast.
Welcome to the Business Oddcast with me, your host, Stuart Morrison, and the fabulously talented.
Hannah Logan.
Yay!
I like that
So,
intro.
the last time we were fairly self-deprecating, but
Yep.
I thought it was quite funny. Uh,
Yeah, absolutely.
why have you got? Come on, tell me, Hannah. Why have you got a badge on? What's the badge? Did you forget your name today? Is it that bad? It's one of those days. Oh God, who am I?
I've got to the point in the week where I need to remember what my name is. No, I was at a networking thing and it was like being back at play school where you all get your little name badge. Um, but it makes it easier because I utterly suck at remembering people's names. So yeah, it's great. It is great. I probably need to take it off, otherwise I look like a small child that's just joined school. But
No.
it's quite. I've worn that like all morning. So actually, I've been into a shop and brilliant.
Just forgot about it. Like bonk.
It just,
Yeah, that's
yeah, it just became a part of my became a part of my being.
so. What was the networking?
So it was really cool. It was one of the LinkedIn locals over in Guildford, and it was such a beautiful venue. It was at the Silent Pool where they make the gin
Oh
in
yeah, they
Sheen,
do.
the
Yeah.
outskirts of Guildford. It's part of Guildford, isn't it? It was just so lovely. And at one point I had a moment where I just thought, oh, this is the life, the master of my own time. I get to hang out in the sunshine with a bunch of other people that are doing the same. And yeah, it was really good. Really, really good.
I really think people miss out on the more social aspects of business
Mm,
networking. Because I know for the neurodiverse it can be a real challenge, the whole small
yeah.
talk and things. But I've noticed, and that's how I met your fabulous self, was, birds of a feather. And it's hard to miss when somebody's wearing a very, very loud suit. And I've noticed that a lot of people that I recognize traits,
Mm.
yeah, they see this as a magnet, and I feel like bring it on. I'm a comfortable pair of hands to have a non-conversation, non-eye contact, slightly rocking from side to side.
It's fabulous. Like you're a beacon for taking the people onto the right path. They're like all heading towards
That
towards your suit.
How was that? How because some places I find that some of the networking, the business networking, and I'm not going to
Yeah,
name names because they do what they do, and
yeah.
some people that'll be their cup of tea, and this isn't about being prescriptive and saying it all has to be done this way.
No.
But was it fairly open and friendly to those on the rainbow spectrum?
Yeah, I reckon so. I mean, I notice a pattern. I've done quite a lot of networking over the months or years, really, a couple of years. I notice a pattern. So for me, my way of really benefiting is I always hone in on two or three people and I make sure that I have a really decent chat with those people. Not necessarily, I haven't pre-planned the people, but I'll just spot a couple and I think I don't want to do like, hi, what do you do? Hi, what do you over and over because my brain will really struggle with remembering all those faces and all those little bits of detail. And I'll get home and I'll have 20 people in my brain and I won't remember what anybody did. And it'll be a kind of guess who, match up the business cards with the conversations, which is chaos. I was chatting to a guy that's definitely in our tribe, and he was kind of saying exactly the same thing. Every time we go, you get the same people going to the sort of different local events, and we just kind of chat. I probably got an inner circle of maybe 10 people I really get on with well, and I'm building up really meaningful relationships with all of them rather than that kind of really, like you said, that small talk, meaningless, or not meaningless, that's harsh, but that small talk stuff, we're actually having a deep dive into more than just kind of finding out what each other do and things like that. So it was really good. I think I think the events where you're forced to do a kind of speed dating kind of thing, that just doesn't work for a lot of us at all.
Oh, that jams
I
my
avoid
brain.
those.
Yeah.
Just chaos, utter chaos.
It's like, who was the first person again, and what did they do?
Yeah, it just becomes a blur of faces and voices and yeah. And I don't the other thing I find is when I come back from an event, I'm obviously quite squished out of energy mentally, but also I need to very quickly make a note of who I spoke to, what they do,
Mm.
and whether or not, we've decided that we need a follow up. And that's not because I haven't got a good memory, but it's more like it was such an immersive experience for me that the fallout afterwards is I feel quite drained. And there's a risk that if I don't put that down on paper, or send off some connections on LinkedIn and stuff, then there's a risk that somebody just bypasses me completely. So
Yeah,
um
the ones I struggle with are where it's a lot of people in a very echoey room and everybody's talking.
yeah,
And there's that even if there's somebody in front of me or there's maybe two or three people, you're stood in a circle having a fairly
yeah,
decent conversation, I can lose the thread really quickly with the background noise, the fan, the car that's
yeah,
pulling up. It just suddenly my attention just instead of being able to focus is just
yeah.
dragged everywhere. And uh, so venue and location can make a big difference for me. Where was this?
So is it I think it's called the Silent Pool. It's where they make Silent Pool gin, but it was
Oh,
an out.
actually, in like the buildings where they
Yeah, so there's a kind of a building that's a kind of cafe, um, which is really beautiful. I've forgotten the name of it, which is embarrassing.
probably the
Um,
Silent Pool Cafe.
It's a separate sort of it's like they do Indian food and I want to say Mahindra. Oh, I should have looked it up, sorry. But
That's fine.
we were outside and we were looking over this beautiful sort of big pond and the sun was shining. There was fresh air, which is a really good thing for me. It can all get a bit stuffy for me inside a small room and then all I'm thinking about is the fact that I can't breathe properly. Um, so
Go lift up a window.
um, it was just a really nice setup. Sometimes you go to these things and you're like, oh, that really connected, that really worked. And then
Yeah.
you go to others and you think, oh, I'm gonna have to go and plug myself into a giant battery, sit in a dark cupboard for a couple of days and recover. Um,
That's but you see, all right, we're going to slide into this week's topic.
mm,
Okay? I've been at a local planning meeting for a big local event where I do emceeing and
mm,
just the again, circular conversations. It's like, what are we
mm.
agreeing here? Can somebody make some finite points and make them in a bullet and just tell me what you want of me? And the answer is yes. Why do I need 10 minutes of preamble? And that's coming from me. And if anyone's ever listened to me, it's that kind of right. How much of the backstory does the person need to know to understand why they need to do the thing they need to do? And sometimes I go into way too much detail, but that's a story for another day. So we're all caught up. We're all caught up with our days. Uh, this week's topic. Now, last week we spoke about is self-employment like the perfect job? And we may have rambled around that topic a little, but I think we understand how, for certain people of the tribe, they are probably better off controlling their environment and being in
Mm,
charge of their own time, you know,
yeah.
transitions and all of that being what they are. So, with that in mind, is there also a case to be said that actually, I mean, if you understand a lot about neurodiversity, that
Mm,
it's a it can be really hard to keep your energy levels consistent. And so
yeah.
is self-employment also useful for managing your energy levels with, things that are anti-hustle is the or anti-grind culture
Yeah.
that is emerging, that is a pushback against the till they buy until they die, do 160 hours a week. You only need to sleep 1 hour a day, two on a Sunday. Um, quickly do the maths in my head and go, oh, yeah, that's 167 hours. Sure, there's 168 in a week. Make the joke actually exact. You've got to make it work. It's not just got to be funny. Um, so the question is then,
Mm.
therefore, when is rest productive? Discuss.
Discuss. I
Hmm.
think, and don't get me wrong, I think this has taken me a long time to realize how important the rest and the kind of recharge and the self-care element of life in general, really, but certainly for neurodiversity. I think it for me it's the difference between struggling and being really productive. And I've had this said to me before, I tend to have a couple of speeds really. If I don't do that kind of rest, then my speeds are 1,000 miles per hour or nothing.
Hmm.
So to be more consistent and to be able to, excuse me, sorry, to be more consistent and to be able to hit my deadlines, which I do really well because I'm practiced in this stuff now, I need to recognize when I need to sort of have a rest or work out my day so that if there's a session like a networking session where there's a lot of talking involved, a lot of peopling, then I need to make sure that the afternoon is maybe some proofreading or some, an audit of somebody's work or something, just to balance out. Yeah,
Yeah, too much high contact
yeah,
activity can really take the energy. I always struggled with that, especially when we were in entertainment. It was all high contact, and we'd get to the end of the day, and my oppo sometimes would be like, "Oh, let's go out," and I'm like, "I just want to sit in a room with a duvet over
yeah.
my head." I just
In a cupboard, like no.
like, it always reminds me of that the special effect that they use, especially in space movies, where you're hurtling through light speed and everything's going past you like that, and you're like, "Oh, mainlining line, yeah."
Meteors.
But at that time when it stops and you go, "Whoa," they don't show it, but I reckon in a lot of instances in those Star Wars movies, everybody's like, "Oh, before we go down on the planet, can we just take a beat? Can we just,
Can we lie down for a bit?
just take a day, wait for the planet to do one revolution whilst we chill out, maybe have a drink, maybe have a sit." But I there's actually there's so I quite like data and I quite like facts. I like empirical, no nonsense, because that's a truth, and I can anchor things to a truth. Where it's when things get a bit kind of like sketchy that my brain starts to fill in the blanks and I start to get a bit anxious. So
Yeah.
one of the facts that I found out was that they studied productivity in taxi drivers, and they looked
Oh,
at taxi drivers. This was London taxi drivers, the black cabbies,
black caps, yeah.
and they were trying to work out what the optimal performance would be on a daily
Mm.
basis. And so they studied taxi drivers and they looked at their earnings and they looked at their work patterns. And it's pretty much a self-employed situation. There
Yeah.
are some rules around when you can and can't work and rest and all the rest of it. But it's pretty much if you get up and you fancy driving, as long as you've got a Hackney carriage license within the environs, you're good to go. And they found that the taxi drivers who were having a good day, who decided to stay out for a lot longer,
Yeah.
but on a bad day called it quits quickly and left, actually made more money. Somewhere around about, I want to say somewhere around about 10-15% more money than
Gosh.
a
Yeah.
taxi driver that kept rigid hours. And the lesson was make hay while the sun shines and
Yeah.
cut your losses as soon as you realize it's going to be a slow day, because
Yeah.
those factors aren't going to change. In actual fact, if you do that, you free up more of the passengers for the people on the slow days who have to be out because of
Yeah. Yeah.
whatever reason. And so it's actually, in game theory, it's a win-win.
Yeah.
And I'm just wondering if that's the same for us. It I have struggled over the years with the Stuart. It's 10 o'clock on a Monday and
Mhm.
you're in bed. You've got to get up and get the week started. Not so much now. I've got things to get up for, but
Yeah.
being wiped from a project of like 10 days intense, like focus,
Hmm.
and then beating yourself up for not going and doing any work. I feel a bit like by not going in and working, somebody else is now benefiting from my inactivity. You can't have it always. You can't have it always.
Yeah, no, absolutely that. I think and like I said sort of a minute ago, really, it's taken me a while to recognize those signs, but actually in recognizing when I'm not at my optimal capacity or when I am, and making the most of that or recharging, recognizing and needing that I need to recharge is completely imperative to my performance because sorry, that performance, that sounds very official, my performance. I'm
Performance
not
review.
performing
Yeah.
properly. Um, you know what I mean, though? I mean, to be a, we know ourselves best, right? And when I was in a employed job, like you said, I mean, the days that I'm lucky I got away with it, but the days where it would just be, well, it wasn't because it was like 20 years, 30 years ago probably, but it would have been a Facebook day if that had existed at the time. The days where you were just like, okay, just look like you're working, you're typing, oh, I'm working, don't worry, everybody. I'm not working. I'm just reading the same thing over and over, pretending because I've got nothing inside my brain. Um, and then, waiting, watching the clock till 5:30 and getting the heck out of there. Um, Now I don't have to do that. And there are days where I just beast my way through the day and I'm churning out the work. And then there's days where I'm just my brain's like, nope. And I'm just kind of having to pick the things that I can do with my eyes shut. Um,
Have you spotted any patterns there? Is there anything that you think might contribute to that? Because I very, very clearly have various patterns, and trying to work against them, there's just not good outcomes for me.
yeah, I hear you. I don't think there are patterns in that if I've done a load of peopling for the day, for the week, this week has been quite intense just by chance. There's been loads and loads of networking, sort of people facing stuff going on. It's been great so far, but I've still got more to come tomorrow and Friday. And I know that actually if the weekend's not enough to kind of recharge me, then next week's going to be more of a kind of, you know, do some of the writing I've got to do and just do the stuff that's less talky and more, stuff in my own brain or in my own bubble, I suppose. Um, but also if I'm not very well, I don't mean ill, but if I'm run down, then I kind of really need to, we live in a society where we're being, thank goodness, we're being encouraged to self-care. But actually, I think for us that goes to a different level, doesn't it? It's not just, drink enough water and well, that's really important, right? But it's not just drink enough water and kind of, do your yoga app. It's a lot more than that. It's preempting stuff and making sure that we don't push ourselves too high. And then, yeah.
There's I I do a lot of running. I'm a runner, and
Mm.
in my journey of learning about running, but most people think, oh, it's just left foot, right foot, and your body will follow. It kind of is, but one of the things you realize is when you are distance running, when you're running miles,
Mm.
that how you run those miles makes a big difference to how you
Yeah,
feel at the end of those miles. So
yeah,
taking enough hydration, if you need to take enough fuel, food,
yeah.
what you need to keep your activity going, but
Mm.
also the preconditioning, the strength training, the stretching, the
Yeah,
ensuring you get enough sleep. That makes a big difference in the latter miles because your form is way more important when you're
yeah,
tired. You are
yeah,
much more likely to create a situation where you injure yourself from either
yeah,
bad form, overexertion, tripping, falling. And
yeah,
I find that works exactly the same for me. That if I am absolutely beat, if I have had a heavy weekend, if
mm.
I have been like I've been recently doing landscape gardening, lifting paving slabs and moving
Yeah,
tons of earth. I've had a few days now in the office where I've just done absolutely nothing because I was getting to the point where, you turn around and you stumble a bit and you bang yourself, and I've got cuts and grazes all over me because I was getting a little bit
yeah,
tired at the ends of days. And towards the end of the 5 day stretch, I was beat. And
yeah,
this last couple of days has taken me a little while to get kind of sensible. So I've been doing a lot of brain where it's sort of static, where
yeah,
allow my body to recover. But I think that knowing and accepting as well, accepting it, it's all one thing to know this information, is it? All we want to know is to hydrate and eat well. Yes, Stuart, easy peasy. But forgetting to do it. I've sat here in this seat for a straight stretch of 7-8 hours. Like, what I got done on Monday and Tuesday, don't even just like
You were burning through that.
I was a machine. But when I surfaced on Monday, it was like, oh, I really need the loo. Really need the loo. But I'm also really thirsty. And also really angry because of those two things. My brain has been so hyper focused on what it is I am doing that it hasn't bothered to check in with my physical needs. Like, I'm this head detached from like a brain cloud, and then I got to go have a look back at the body. Oh no, he's sitting in a puddle. Quick.
So true. It's so true. But I don't know if this I don't know if this is a bit of a weird thing to say. Although I can see that it's not healthy, when I get into what I call that kind of churning it out mode, I quite like it. Like, there's a part of me that's like, whoa, I'm almost like watching me, like, yeah, you can do this, come on. And I'm just churning through it. I'm like, churning out really good blogs, or I was working on my website the other day, and for a couple of weeks I've been static. I just can't do it. I'm stuck. But actually the other day I was just like, wow, just downloading copy and just, yeah, burnt through. I haven't finished it. Sorry if whoever is trying to get me to do it quickly is listening. Accountability.
Yeah.
But I do quite like it, but I also recognize, like you said, it doesn't feel healthy to me. Like, I like to look back and think, wow, you got so much done that day, and yet I know that there's a price to pay. And in an ideal world, I wouldn't go from, like, 100 miles per hour to like 5 miles per hour, and sort of it can sometimes feel a bit, well, no, I moderate it pretty well now, but occasionally it can feel a bit too extreme. Um, and that's easier when we're self-employed because we can manage that time better. But actually, there are weeks where I need to be more consistent. So
I think you raise a really good point there, because
Mm.
the executive function, executive dysfunction, as I like to think of it,
Yes.
plays a part. That also applies to your own best interests. It's not just other people and stuff. It's your own best interests that you can quite often forget about. The amount of times I've said yes to things. I mean, there was one stint in my late 20s where I pretty much said yes. If somebody asked me a question, the answer was yes, and I would figure out how to fit it all in. And it meant I was, well, no, I seriously burnt out.
Oh
I mean,
gosh.
I was doing 3 plays. 2 of them I had quite lead roles in. The
Yeah.
majority of them, I was involved in some degree with the set or the production in the back end. And it led to some quite unwell mental health issues that I had to go and seek help for, because it was 6 months and I think that's what happens when you're younger. I think younger, you have more fuels to burn.
That's true. Yeah.
You've got more energy, you've got more of everything. Let's face it, damn you, youth, damn you for being young and fit and healthy. I don't want to sound like an old codger. But the amount of things that I can get in a day done, like physical work, I have to temper that with the idea now that you're not 19. I could take a weekend and do double perhaps what I allow myself to do. And that was also, I'd be at it from 8 in the morning till somebody shouting, "It's getting dark, can you turn the lights out? Can you stop banging on that car?
Stop drilling, it's midnight."
Yeah. And I tell you, it's been there, that kind of hyperflow, which you power through in your 20s and 30s, but it doesn't lead to good outcomes and there's been a couple of times where I've not managed my energy over a significant
Yeah.
period of time, which leads to this burnout that people talk about. And it's such a debilitating, the brain fog that comes with it,
Yeah.
the literally the inability to think, am I even hungry right now?
Yeah, just
Which,
a numbness of sort of, yeah.
and I do think that self-employment, if you can get it right for anybody who suffers from, or not suffers from, so it makes it medicalizes it, and it really bugs me.
Mm.
Not less than, we're different, you know.
Yeah.
The self-employment piece allows you to wake up and go, oh, okay, yeah, no, today I may have pushed it for a bit, and that
Yeah.
self-realization, and then like, okay, all right, I'm going to feel like a lazy one, but it's finish at 3:30 and
Yeah.
maybe, 2 hour lunch, and not a long liquid lunch either, just
Yeah. Yeah.
I just need to plod at this day,
Just
this.
yeah.
And that's what I've had for the last couple of days. Whilst I got quite a lot done on Monday, Tuesday, I realised, hang on a minute, you've been pushing yourself physically. Now you're pushing yourself mentally. You know that this is not going to lead to good things. So yesterday and today, I did get quite a lot done yesterday, but today has been more about meeting and greeting and recording this, which is
Yeah.
this is just a lovely chat with the lovely Hannah Logan,
Yeah. This
telling me
isn't
about the world. Yeah.
absolutely that. And we're lucky, aren't we, that we've created this situation for ourselves. It was a choice, but I'm fortunate. I feel fortunate that I can do that. I can recognize when I need to manage my mental and physical energy better, but also up until, well, I still try and do it. I try on a Monday, and I appreciate I'm very lucky to be able to do this, but I try on a Monday to not do any kind of work stuff. Like I'll chat about work or I'll plan some stuff, but I never have a full-on Monday because sometimes if I've had a busy week, I need longer than a 2-day weekend to kind of regroup myself. So I know other people that try not to do so much, other like-minded people that try not to do so much on maybe a Friday, just so that they have that longer weekend. Yeah. Because how much work have you done over the years on the weekend?
Oh,
I always do a bit of work on the
oh.
weekend.
Well, we've exchanged messages.
Yeah.
You dip in and out of things.
Yeah.
If you're like me, if your business
Mm.
is attached to your special interests and
Yeah, yeah.
you can't switch it off anyway. It
No,
would,
absolutely.
and this is what people don't understand. And we'll touch on this in another episode
Yeah,
about
yeah.
holidays. I find holidays incredibly. Um, the word distressing is too extreme. It's like I'm being asked to put all my favorite toys down and go and spend a week with nothing around me that I really like and expect to enjoy myself and relax when I am. It might seem like, oh, he's lifting all those paving slabs and digging all that thing. It might be physically tiring, but I want to be there. It's exciting
Yeah,
for
yeah.
me.
Yeah.
Although I recognize the need to rest, I want to do it in a comfortable environment, which I control. And I know I can eat my favorite foods. I know
Yeah.
I can put the kettle on and have my cup of tea and it will taste, the water will taste right. I can stir it with my favorite spoon. Favorite spoon! Oh no! Look at the spoons in the
That's a
drawer.
cutlery topic that needs to be.
Oh yeah.
I've said this to you before, but I call holidays, and this is brutal, and I appreciate not everybody thinks like this, thank goodness. But I call holidays, especially when the kids were small, all the rubbish bits in a different country. It's literally all the bits I don't like about life. Take them abroad where the chicken nuggets aren't the ones they want to eat, and the temperature's probably hotter because most people other than me want to be in a hotter place. Disaster. It's not, that's not my relaxation. My relaxation is just chilling in my own space with my own environment, with my things around me, and we've said that, I've said that before, but um coming back to what's that?
That's how I feel about holidays.
I always get sad. People say, "You're going away," and I always really gleefully say, "No, no,
No.
thank goodness. This year I haven't got to."
Yeah.
It's so weird.
I, I, again, the masking thing can be useful, but sometimes if you are tired, it slips. And somebody asking me about holidays might just have me,
I love that little face. Just that. That's all you're getting. The laugh. Um, I wanted to say to you,
Yes.
we
Yeah.
were talking about productivity. I was talking to a fabulous lady last night at this networking thing, and she was saying, I don't know if she was neurodiverse or not, but I think she almost certainly was. Um, but oh God, I'm diagnosing
It's
people.
it's a little bit like Oprah when she gave away all
Yeah.
their stars. And you have the tism, and you have the tism, and you have the tism.
I didn't tell her, luckily. I held it back for once. But she was saying that she does things really quickly. She's super productive. I mean, she's young, so she's still got that as well. But she said she was working a sales job and she would do the day's work in 4 hours, and then she'd be like, I've done everything you've given me to do today. Can I go? And they'd say no, and they'd give her the same amount of work again. And she said one of the reasons she became self-employed was because she was having to do twice the work of everybody else for the same money. Whereas now she can do this, half the amount of time for the same money. A day's work to somebody else is a half a day for her.
You've touched on a very interesting point and a topic which has been rolling around in my brain for
Mm.
many a year. Capitalism. Capitalism. I don't think capitalism is conducive to good mental health
No.
for anyone, right? This idea that 5 days a week. When did we have the meeting that 5 days and two off? Why isn't
Mm.
it 2 days and five off?
Yeah.
Oh, well, we've got to work on our GDP. Do we now? As long as I've got
Prove we're
enough,
busy.
as long as I've got enough to put food on the plate, and you know, I want to be a part of a bigger thing. Don't get me wrong. I want to feel like I'm making a contribution and helping. But when somebody is doing twice the work,
Yeah, for the same money.
I'm gonna.
Just because she's so good. She's so good that she got penalized for it. You just reminded me, I used to work in a little basement office in Soho many, many moons ago. And I churned through my work so quickly. I was employed at, PAYE employed at that point. I churned through my work so quickly that I'd spend so much time in the post room talking to the guy that did the post because he was so nice and almost certainly one of us. And I chatted to him for ages and I still was getting all my work done and more. And I was doing a bit of marketing. I was getting involved in all sorts of stuff. It was fabulous. But I never missed any deadlines or didn't do what I was meant to do.
You see,
I rattled through the list.
I think that's why the working from home thing is not sitting right with some companies, because whilst people are productive, they can see the number. They're probably productive over a much shorter window,
Yeah.
you know. And when you go on to Reddit,
Mm.
and you go into certain places that talk about work and
Yeah.
business, um, they're spied on. Like, did you know? And I didn't know this, but in Microsoft 365,
Yeah.
when you have a deployment which covers a number of different employees,
Yeah.
the admins can look at stroke rate per hour, and
No.
they can tell whether or not you're rattling your keys. They can also
No.
see if you're using like what they call a mouse mover. So it makes it look like your mouse is moving, and they can detect this. I mean, at this point, like surely we're like rats in a maze.
Yeah.
Lab rats being poked and prodded and expected to do certain things and zapped if you don't. I mean, come on, people. Most of these large corporations, they get their pound of flesh. They really do. So I
It's
don't understand why we haven't got a 2 day work week and a 5 day weekend.
I vote for you, Stuart. I think that's the Stuart for president. I think that is completely so. I suppose a lot of my working history, I worked in sales roles. So actually, they just looked at the numbers. Is Hannah hitting her targets? What's she doing? So I think there was probably more wiggle, I can't speak, wiggle room for somebody in that role because they'd be like, oh yeah, she's 10% up or whatever it was I had to hit. So therefore, there was less micromanaging. But then I used to work for a big blue chip company at one point, and yeah, there was definitely kind of, what did you do this day? How many calls did you make? How many, And at that point, for me, I'm just like, nope. My brain's like, nope, I'm not playing that horrible game. And then it all gets a bit messy. So yeah.
But you see, okay, so here's some left field thinking that goes through my brain. Everybody needs a Bez. Everyone needs a Bez. Do you know? Madness had Chaz Smash. He'd come up and do the dancing, and he was a cheerleader for the band. And they tried to chase him off the stage, but they realised that people actually quite liked it. It was the same with Bez. He just was a nice bloke who they get. Here's some maracas. He's not a musician. But, to be fair, with a little more seriousness, that's how Keith in the Prodigy started. He was one of their dancers, and he was
No,
like,
really?
that's what Firestarter is written about. It's
Oh wow.
about Keith being the crowd igniter,
Yeah,
Firestarter.
yeah.
And I just love that we've lost in society
Mm.
the kind of guys that wander around just being a good egg. Oh, he's brilliant. Get him along. I feel like sometimes that's me, the mascot. Get him along. It'll be nothing. It'll be funny if nothing else. Let's just get him along. Come on. Let's
I
laugh.
can,
Funny man.
I've got a visual of somebody with you under their arm, like bringing you along as the mascot.
Don't. I'm telling you. But yeah, I do think that, again, to reiterate the point we made last week, but what we were talking about earlier, the self-employment aspect of managing your energy, managing your time, because let's face it, we're crap at time management, but deadline management,
Yeah,
it's maybe a different matter because you can put that in your diary. And
yeah,
sometimes I need a deadline, and I need to know just how much expected to deliver before that deadline.
yeah, yeah.
But you will have it by the deadline. I might work all night to get there. You will have it. And
24 hours
sometimes
straight.
I just need my feet to the fire. That's just how my brain, over the years, I've tried doing it early and going,
Yeah.
it was the same pattern. I mean, you read my school reports. Stuart always delivers at the last minute. The key word in that sentence, always delivers. 2 words. Always delivers. Yeah, at the last minute. Doesn't matter about the last minute. The last minute, yeah, whatever.
Yeah, just the important bit is nailed, isn't it?
Always delivers.
This is a true story. I wrote my dissertation in 3 weeks before the deadline, and I needed to be in that much kind of in the headlight, just terrified. I burnt through it in 3 weeks, and it involved questionnaires, loads of research, all sorts of stuff going on. I burnt through it. I got a first for it. It was so good. And
Oh, wow.
people were really annoyed because they were like, "Oh my God, how did you do that?" They were laughing at me when they were like, "Oh, Hannah hasn't even started." I was literally the one at the printers getting them, like it was printing out, tick tick, clock ticking, 2 more minutes till you've got to hand it in, get it rounded up and threw it like under the like Indiana Jones as the thing was coming down, threw it under the first. I didn't get a first overall, I should quickly add. But actually, my point being, the best piece of work I did was that intense. I'm great at intense research type stuff. And it just, yeah. Oh, excuse me. I just absolutely loved it. And I just churned through it. Yeah.
Beast
Brilliant.
it at the end.
But very stressed. Very, very stressful, very stressed. A good couple of weeks of like in a dark corner of my room somewhere, just rocking. Oh, that was. But when I was in it, I was like some kind of junkie, like some kind of adrenaline junkie, just like, wow, this is incredible. Quite extreme. I mean, it doesn't sound very healthy when I hear myself describe it.
I take you
Um,
back to what I described earlier on. It's the
mm,
light speed kind of
yeah, absolutely.
lining life.
But I like, and like I keep saying, my two speeds, I'm either like, 1,000 miles per hour, or I'm just like, nope, completely stuck. Yeah,
Yeah.
difficult. But I suppose what we're saying really here is understanding. For me, the huge help has been understanding all this stuff. You were talking about deadlines. I know that there will be bad days or there might be bad weeks. So therefore, if I've got a big deadline in the future, and I've always got some deadline in the future, then I plan ahead. I mean, before I understood the way that I work best, I would be late. Very early in my career, I realized if I wasn't careful, I would be late for meetings. So actually what happened, I used to have a lot of client meetings outside of the office when I was employed, and I would get there an hour early. I'd take a book, I'd get there, I'd be in their car park an hour early every time. It was always somewhere across London, so I never knew how long it would take me to. I used to drive. I'd get there an hour early, read my book, because it was either an hour early or just not getting there. Get there a day late.
But
Um,
again, it's the self-acceptance that
yeah,
this needs to be this way for
yeah,
me to feel relaxed about doing this.
mm,
Um, and it was quite interesting. Whenever we would gig, I would look at the time that it would take us to drive there,
yeah,
and I would double it and add an hour because the thought that we were going to drive there,
mm,
get out the car, find a parking space near the event, you know,
yeah,
be in the event, get changed, and I needed a good hour for decompress, get the road out ahead, get into gig mode, know that we've got some wriggle room because
yeah,
I'm sat in traffic, but it doesn't matter. I've got an extra 2.5 hours or three
yeah,
hours before I need to be there. Um, I, that's not necessarily a neurotypical or a neurodiverse thing, but
yeah,
if that then leads to a knock-on effect the next day because you've
yeah, yeah,
burnt that energy of like, oh my god, I didn't get the transition break I needed, I didn't have time to switch focus, I didn't have time to do all that, and then I'm back in the car and I'm back again and I'm
yeah,
home. The next day falls apart very quickly. So,
yeah, absolutely.
and it's the same when I say to people I have to eat at 12 o'clock. I have to.
Yeah.
The longer I, half 12, fine. 1 o'clock on occasions, all right. But my afternoon falls apart if
Yeah.
just because I get hangry, and then the
Yeah.
hangover of that is I don't really enjoy the food, and I'm not listening actually to anyone else because all I'm thinking about is I really need to eat, really
Yeah.
need to eat, and it doesn't matter what you put in front of me. I really need to eat. And some people have experienced firsthand that Stuart needing to eat, what that actually means. It's not
Those people
Stuart
are not
like
on
a little
podcasts.
snack in the next couple of hours. It's like Stuart needs to eat like now. Yeah.
I remember early on in my relationship with my husband, he discovered that I'm, as he calls it, mean when hungry. But it wasn't just mean. Like I'd go quite quickly from kind of, he'd say, "Oh, I'll pop out and get some food," and then I'd be like, "Okay," and then he'd go out, and if he was longer than half an hour, I'd be phoning him like, "Are you almost done?" And he'd be like, "Oh yeah, it's a bit of a queue," and then quite quickly that would descend into like kind of terrible, like, "Where are you?" And he just knew that it was because some switch had gone. And I was just, and when I got in, sorry, when he got in with the food, I'd just be like completely uncommunicative, just go to the food and and like bare hands.
Ripping open packets like
And then afterwards, I'd be completely normal again. I'd be like, "Oh, thank you for getting that." And he'd just say, "Wow, that was really interesting, Hannah."
very early on. My delightful, gorgeous, and very talented wife cottoned onto this, and she would ask me quite often, "Are you hungry?" If I get, out of nowhere, I get pissy, and not even at her, just like I'm this
Life.
jerk, and she'll go, "I think we need to eat." And it's like, and she gets it. To be fair, she does get it.
Yeah.
An unhappy, unfed Gemma is a very sad mouth. She get even her family have said, very it's a bit ratty. It's so cute, so cute.
I take snacks in my handbag. I'm not talking like a baguette and stuff, but just little, like a little
Carry
pouch
on.
of nuts or like a little squirrel pouch. But yeah, just because I know I don't want to commit murder because I haven't eaten on time.
We've also got this other thing which we worked out very early on was
Mm,
quite often I'd get angry.
yeah,
The other person sees the anger and immediately feels it projected onto them and
yeah,
responds in time. And two things my wife taught me when we had kids was don't get
yeah,
involved in the drama. If the toddler's rolling around on the floor, why are you getting angry? They're the one having the emotional outburst. They might be completely irrational about it, and then suddenly you're being irrational, even if they're hungry. And it is a kind of like, I'm really hungry, I'm gonna flash, flash, flash. Deal with that. Don't get
mm,
involved in the drama. But the other one that I used was,
mm,
it's not you, it's the situation. That
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
angry.
mm,
Yes, I am. I'm stressed. I'm a bit curt, a bit
yeah,
even more curt than normal. Oh God. Um, but I know that the situation is not of I'm a big boy. I can eat and manage my mood. And if I am hungry and I'm struggling to manage my mood, it's still, I don't get a buy, I don't get a let off, I don't get a, oh, well, he's a bit
yeah,
diverse. It explains it to the other person, gives context to it, but it
yeah.
does you can't be a jerk to everyone, but
No,
you
no,
can
it's not an
still
excuse. Yeah,
respond in a kind of, I'm really stressed, and it's
yeah,
and sometimes like when I'm driving, if there's been traffic and we've not hit, the food stops that I wanted to,
mm,
it can come out. And thankfully, I've got a partner who understands this, and that their reaction to it can actually make a real difference. Because if they engage with it, it's like, oh, let's pour some petrol on that. Yeah, Stu's stressed. Let's stress him out some more. As and that's when I start to, yeah, that's when the wheels do urge towards a meltdown, and they're not fun.
I remember some of the worst words my husband ever uttered was something like, "You should have eaten something before we left." I was like, "What?" That was literally like petrol match.
What are you
Why
doing?
didn't you? What? You're going to give me a hindsight lecture? You're going to talk me through how I need to go back
Hind-
in time?
I'm loving that. A hindsight lecture. I do like that. I'm putting that
Should
one
have
into the brain box.
done this. Oh, okay. Thank you. Thank you. Do you
Here's
have
a
a time
PowerPoint
machine?
of all of the things that have led to this and how they are somehow all your fault. Oh, do tell more. I'm eager to learn. This is a learning and growing moment, and I'll do it whilst I'm hungry. Like Incredible Hulk. Ah! Right. Well, on that note, food and food rituals, I will save for a deep dive on another day.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining me again today, Hannah. Have you got
Oh,
anything going
it's
on that you
been
want to
great.
talk about?
Um, no, I think this has been a good discussion.
Well, we now have a domain name,
I think
businessoddcast.com. So,
fine.
we'll be posting up these episodes there and how to get in touch. If you want to be a guest, if you'd like to come along, if you'd like to tell us about your hyperfocus, your specialism, your special interest, we would love to hear from you. We'd love to hear your take on whatever is going on in your life and how you are and all of that. So get in touch. And I've got one piece of homework for people. I gave you some homework last week. I hope you've been doing it. You are enough. You are enough. You are awesome. We all know that. Okay, that's the baseline. That's where you start every day. You're awesome. But here's one. If you wouldn't ask for their help, why would you listen to their criticism?
Wise.
I heard that the other day and I was like, do you know what? That sums it up for me. Yeah,
Yeah.
if I'm not going to ask for your help, I'm certainly going to. A person leaning in, chewing on something. Yeah, you should have done it like that, not like that. No, So yeah,
Thank you.
take that away, put that up
Fabulous.
on your mantra board, stick it in your brain box, and we'll see you next time. See you soon. All the best.